Hello and welcome. This is Kevin, also known as AWOL, and there I go with the head in front of the thing. Just trying to figure out the strings. There's a lot more strings in this one. This is 24 strings, so this is a pretty big bracelet. It took 2.5 hours. I think that's right. It's like 158 minutes. So yeah, it took a long time to make. Um, I wouldn't say it was intensely difficult. But I did really have to pay attention to a lot of it. There are some spots in here, if you remember from when we were setting up the pattern, where in order to get certain colors to land right where we needed them, I had to do some real zigzag here, there kind of stuff in order to get the colors to land right. And so yeah, especially at the beginning and the end, those were where the trickiest parts were. Other than that, it was kind of just your basic intermediate bracelet. Again, this is not easy stuff. This is not something for a beginner. Um, but that said, I didn't really hate it. It's not the worst thing ever. Um, like this stuff here, right? So like every time it comes in like that, it's every other string, which is a little bit hard, but then you get a nice long row down. That's kind of cool. That happens an awful lot. There's a sort of arrowhead-ish thing that goes on in the middle. That's kind of something that I'm kind of used to. Splitting up the colors like this to get half and half and different ones on either side, that's not so bad, especially when you're like in the same part of the loop part, right? So that wasn't so terribly difficult. Um, as far as like, I could have maybe done better with contrasting colors. Like the super light color could have been something that was out and making the dots in the outer part, which would have lit it up more. Because if you like look at the bracelet itself, it's sort of, you see that there's like a texture thing going on, but it's not in your face so much. And maybe that's good. I'm kind of torn between the idea that could I have gone like way more intense with it? And like there's this one color that sort of runs through the middle in here that is darker than anything that's on the outside, but lighter than the two dark ones. I almost feel like that could have been purple or red or just completely something else just to be interesting. Um, but at the same time, it gives it a subtlety that I don't think you could have gotten any other way. So it's kind of it's kind of hard to say. Again, this is a case of if you make this bracelet, try some other colors, try anything. I would, excuse me, I would really like to see that. There is so much potential in this one, and it could be so much fun. This right here might be the more difficult-ish part because I don't have anything to tell me when that turn happens. So I had to actually kind of count that part. Um, or you can look at it goes over dark, light, and use that as your guide. I think that's probably how I really counted it, was like looking at the thing, go over the light, go over the dark, go over this dark, go over this light, and knowing where it is. Again, I really tried to very systematically go through this whole thing and try to make it as easy on myself as possible. Um, it's like here, like I'm just going to finish off doing everything on the right hand side so I can bring the left down. Um, and it just kind of goes back and forth with that for pretty much all of it. Every I think every time when it came to these rows on the edge, I tried to keep it the same way where everything kind of comes inwards and then the other row goes to the out. Um, because it because the way it alternates, it creates a texture and you don't want to keep changing how that works. Like if you have the light string is going through the middle of all of that and you went the dark ones are going to the left and then the light one goes to the right and the dark one goes to the left and the right. If you do that, it will change the feel of the bracelet, the actual texture of it. So the way that I'm doing it, I'm getting a particular kind of texture and I'm trying to stay with that same thing throughout the whole bracelet so that way just it feels right. I think is the best way of putting that. I'm not saying that the other is wrong, but okay, so if you do it the other way and you stay consistent, great. That's what I'm saying. Pick a way of doing it and sticking to that so that way the texture through the whole thing is consistent. That's what I'm trying to say. Sorry, it's hard for me to explain some of these things sometimes. Like it's sort of intuitive to me at this point, because I've done it for a while, but why I do it, I don't think that I've actually explained it to myself very well. I just do things habitually. And like I came up with rules in my head for how things get done. Um, and I don't always remember why I did the rule. So yeah, that's kind of it. So this is that darker but not the darkest color that had come in, that I'm working with right there. So that again, it kind of feels like that could have been different, um, but maybe not too different. I mean, because it is the dot inside of the dark diamond or arrowhead up above, right? And then it comes in, does its bit, and then goes away again. Um, so maybe not too crazy. Maybe red is going a little bit too far, but it definitely feels like it could have been more different. And again, the contrasts of the outer ones, again, could have been more. But that said, there is something that when I look at this, it puts all of the emphasis, like even if I just hold it here, right? And we just look at it like this, all the emphasis is on the dark and the light. Everything else is sort of there. And it kind of reminds me of if you look closely at like the cinematic things like Superman, the S on his chest is dominant. You look at his costume from a distance, it's got a whatever. When they get in closer, they made it so that way the fabric has all this really interesting textured, layered, shadowy effects going on. This kind of gives me a little bit of that feel. Um, in the sense that the like this part is the S and everything else is just kind of low key. It's there. It's more than a flat color. There's something else going on, but that something else isn't distracting from the main show. So in some aspects, I really feel like it's exactly where it was supposed to be. But again, obviously, I'm torn by that. I don't know. Like I said, I kind of want to see some other versions. I want to see what else somebody else would do with the colors and how they might change it up and make it their own. So there is no fooling that this took a long time. This was, like I said, like 2.5 hours or whatever. Um, but there's just two great big segments. And because it's just two big segments, in a way, it feels like it went kind of quick. And I know I talk about that a lot in like some of these patterns. Like that's obviously my favorite kind of go-to thing, right? Um, but it does psychologically feel a little bit better. It feels kind of cool. I definitely like this. Um, and I guess I want to say like it's rewarding to know that like okay I'm through with this segment or this section is done kind of thing. Like maybe that's part of the element. I don't. It could be honestly. So much of my life is driven by um, ADHD type motivation. So there might be a thing about doing a segment and getting the dopamine. But if I see that I have to keep doing the same segments again and again and again, the brain's like, nope, not giving you the dopamine until the whole thing's done. You've got so many more of those to do. It's no. It could be something as simple as that. Honestly, I don't know for sure. I just noticed I kind of don't. I'm doing the sides sort of differently. Well, I got one going out and the other one's coming in. Um, oh yeah, you can kind of feel that. Well, it's kind of interesting because they're kind of like that area. They're both going the same direction. So on the back of it, there's like some interesting patterns and stuff going on, kind of giving it an interesting texture. But yeah, again, though, I mean, I was just kind of, I just wanted to get this thing done. This has been a long week, a lot of making stuff. And I've been really excited about this bracelet, to be honest. Like this one in particular, just there's something cool about the whole thing. I like the way that it overlaps in the middle. Um, it's pretty neat. So I was really kind of looking forward to finally getting this thing done. And there we go. So yeah. So hopefully you guys have enjoyed this whole week of working from photos and stuff. I've been I have plans for doing more of this. I obviously have probably a lot of photos myself. I've got people telling me that they're going to send me photos that they have that they want me to try because, maybe they didn't work out the pattern. I'm not sure exactly why, but they've got patterns for me, so I'm kind of looking forward to that. Um, got a lot of plans, a lot of things going on. Hopefully, you guys will stick around and enjoy all that. Um, and wait, we are past the halfway point. So I need to thank my Patreon supporters as well as my YouTube members for making these kind of tutorials happen. Um, I honestly, it's been what a couple of years now of making videos and trying to improve the quality, the sound, everything, bring you guys more interesting stuff for me to work on. And yeah, honestly, the the support I get from Patreon and the YouTube members really goes a long way to help me keep the content coming. So thank you guys very, very much for that. Um, I'm excited. I think this year is going to have so many cool things happening. Like there's just going to be, you know, some really fun stuff getting made. So, you know, if you haven't already subscribed, there's going to be, like I said, a lot of cool stuff. And it's not always going to be this difficult stuff. I have some plans for um, doing some really easy things you know, things that a beginner could get in and enjoy. So that's going to be fun as well. So, but yeah, there's nothing about this bracelet in particular that like epiphany making it like, oh my gosh, I have to tell you guys this, other than like I said, the beginning and the end had those little areas where we had to change some directions and stuff around to kind of bury some of the other colors and the other strings. That's a thing. But for the most part, it's pretty straightforward. It's not too bad. Um, the the light and the darker colors definitely get used more. The tails aren't the same length because a couple of the strings were so short. I didn't, you know, I could shorten up this one, right? I could make them even like that and it'd still be fine. But I left it kind of like that so that way there's plenty of room in case somebody wants to put it on their ankle or whatever. It gives it more tieability. But yeah, some of the strings did get kind of short. But again, if you cut it in thirds like I do, there was plenty. It didn't, I wasn't feeling threatened. I wasn't like, uh-oh, you know, kind of towards the end there. That was fine. Um, yeah, I'm kind of really pleased with the whole cutting strings in thirds. For the most part, I haven't ran into too many things that end up becoming a problem for that. And that's why I do it. That's the whole thing. Like, um, I don't know if you guys remember history wise, like, I've probably talked about this before. I used to always cut my string into quarters. That way, you're doubling it up, you have two full strands. And that's great for like I don't know, like a dovetail or something that uses all the strings evenly. As soon as you start doing something like this, where a couple strings are really dominant, those would run out and they would be a real problem. And that was a big problem with like that pattern. The pattern I have is a tattoo. That's, you know, it's all over. It's my clipboard. It's whatever. That pattern had that problem a lot. And at some point, I just was like, man, I got to come up with something different. Otherwise, I'm going to be seriously limited to what I can work on. And tried to figure out how to have a longer length, but use the strings evenly so that way I didn't end up with like weird segments, weird small pieces at the end. Like if I just eyeballed it, I used to when I very first started before I cut it into quarters, used to just kind of eyeball it, stretch it out from my middle of my chest to my fingertips, and that was the length of my string or whatever. Um, and that evolved into the quarter thing because there were pieces left over that were unusable. Um, so then it was Mandy who actually helped me work out how to cut a string into three pieces. So if you haven't seen it yet, there's a video on how to do it. Do it with a small piece. The same rules basically apply. But yeah, yeah, it's really come in handy. Yeah, at the end of it, there's a lot of pieces that are kind of long, and I know that some of you out there are cutting your strings close so that way everything is calculated. I only think that works if your string comes on a ball. Honestly, I if it's just in a skein, you're just going to end up with weird pieces that aren't good for anything really. So, you know, again, it's up to you. I'm just throwing out my 2 cents. So there you have it. Um, yeah, we're getting towards the end here. It's not super close, but we're getting close. It's nice. Um, And sadly, the numbers that tell me how much time is left are like little teeny tiny things and they're really far away. So I can't see them. I tried to take a peek. I tried to see what that was. I have no idea. I can't read it. So there you go. Anything else? Hopefully you'll be there tomorrow for the live stream. Be working on a bag, having fun, you know. Who knows what kind of shenanigans we'll get up to, but that should be a lot of fun. I can't think of anything else that's kind of going on that's exciting or whatever. Nothing much. Yeah, so now, yeah, we are totally getting towards the end. This is where the the dark blue will kind of come over the top of the other one, which kind of afterwards I was looking at it. I'm like, I don't know, because the this one stays on the top the entire time, and a part of me is like, oh, but it would have been cool if it kind of went over, under, over. But at the same time, it's like, maybe this one just is up higher. Like that's, you know, wait. Oh no, it goes under the first part, over the second one, and then over the third. Yeah, that's not right. I'm not sure how or why that ended up the way it did. I guess I just didn't think about it. Still, I don't think anybody is really going to notice. Well, I guess now that you will, but I don't think anybody's going to care. It looks really, really cool. I would totally rock this. This is, it's a good looking bracelet. So, yeah. And this part here, this pretty much finishes up everything for the whole left hand side. And then there's just the filling in the bits over here on the right. Again, this thing is just, it kind of, so here, like it's coming up to where the part where it is, where it has to do the changing the directions or whatever. But it's just one small little spot. And as long as you're paying attention, that's not that hard of a deal. And then, yeah, yeah. I really, I do like this bracelet a lot. I'm kind, I can't, I gotta admit, I'm halfway tempted in keeping it for myself. Like, seriously, I like it that much. It's really kind of cool. So, I don't know. Hopefully, you guys like it too. We're getting to the end here. So, as always, don't get your strings in a bunch.